Hello everyone, today I will be talking about the Tuskegee experiment. Imagine going to the doctor to seek medical help or guidance, and you end up being a part of a government experiment instead. This is what happened during the Tuskegee experiment. The experiment was a 40-year long experiment where they had black people who had syphilis and they denied treatment from them without them knowing. And the sources that I used during this study was a 2007 Auburn News article which interviewed heirs of Tuskegee victims, a 2010 Pittsburgh editorial which compared Tuskegee to a similar unethical study, and a 2008 Canadian Press article which studied the long-term effects that it had on Black people's participation in medical trials. And the Tuskegee experiment isn't just a part of history, but it still affects medical mistrust and public health to this day. I will be covering the history of the experiment, the tactics that was used to keep it going, and how its legacy still impacts healthcare today. So the historical background of this study is it ran from 1932 to 1972, and it was conducted by the U.S. Public Health Services. 399 Black men with syphilis were told that they had bad blood and were denied treatment even after they had a cure for syphilis. The 2007 Auburn News article revealed that the largest group of participants came from the Missionary Baptist Church in Alabama, and many discovered that their relatives were experimented on after the study had already ended, and they shared really emotional trials that they heard that just showed so much distress and anger and hurt that happened to these people in this experiment. The Pittsburgh editorial explained that Tuskegee wasn't the only unethical study that has happened, but there was another one in which they deliberately infected 696 people with syphilis or gonorrhea. This strengthens how serious and systemic these studies and experiments are, and how deep they can go, and how it keeps happening over and over again. The study's exposure in 1972 led to lawsuits in which a 9 to 10 million settlement was happened, and the president actually gave a public apology for it. So the tactics that were used in this experiment was a lot of persuasion and just deception. So they were told that they were receiving treatment or vaccines, even though they actually weren't giving them any treatment or vaccines, and it was intentionally being withheld. And they also used bias from doctors, nurses, and government workers, and they used their professional power to gain people's trust to be a part of this experiment. And they also exploited poverty of the people who were participating in this experiment, because most of the participants were poor sharecroppers who accepted free meals, checkups, and burial insurance for participating. They also had a lack of medical knowledge. The Auburn News article noted many families didn't even understand what a control group was, so they didn't really know what they were getting themselves into when they decided to join this experiment. Scientific justification to this experiment was that it advanced scientific knowledge, but it really didn't. It just caused more harm than good in the long run. So there are still modern day impacts of this study. The Canadian Press article shows that researchers still debate whether Tuskegee experiment causes Black mistrust in clinical trials today. And Johns Hopkins researchers had opposing results. One study found that Black patients were less willing to participate in clinical trials because they feared being used as guinea pigs, like the people in this experiment were. And another found that many Black people didn't actually know about the Tuskegee experiment, but they were still skeptical about participating in medical trials because of the already systematic oppression that they go through, and they were scared of the wait times, how long it would take to care them, just everything. The denial in the cure to syphilis resulted in deaths, infections of wives, and children born with syphilis. And this actually caused real harm to people. It's not just a conspiracy, but it caused true and real physical harm to people, with many deaths and health problems, issues through generations. And this really just caused minority distrust across the country, across the world, and fewer Black participants in medical research. So the reason why I chose this experiment, and my personal reflection for it, is it's just a conspiracy that really turned out to be factual and deeply harmful. There's not much conspiracy to this, but it because of the deep effects that it really did cause in the facts. And hearing the air stories made it feel really real and personal. Learning about the other study that was performed showed that Tuskegee wasn't an isolated mistake, but a part of a pattern that still could happen to this day. The 2008 article helped me understand how this history still affects healthcare today and how people see the United States Public Health Service. This research made me more aware of why medical mistrust exists and how important ethical research practices are. So the conclusion of this is Tuskegee was a real government experiment. They really wanted to test all these people and use them as guinea pigs. And its tactics and harm still impacts healthcare to this day. And we must learn from it to prevent future abuse to anyone, not just Black people, but to anyone who could be used as a guinea pig in experiments or studies. Thank you.